Hey everybody, I'm George Conley from Scratch Golf Tips, and today we're going to be talking about driver loft, what it means, how it can affect your game, and how you can actually change the driver loft on your own driver. So this is the driver that I'll be using as a demonstration towards the end of the video to show you how to actually change the loft on the driver with these hosels, and then all you need is a wrench. I'll explain the process later on. I'm using a Callaway XR16, which is currently the driver that I have in the bag right now. So the very fundamentals of loft on a driver is if it's laying flush on the ground, this angle is what loft the club is at. Standard driver lofts range from anywhere between 9.5 and 10.5 degrees, depending on the manufacturer. This club, for instance, has a natural loft of 10.5. But with the hosels here, you can not only adjust the loft of the club by down to -1 and up to +2 degrees, you can also change the lie settings, which can help you favor a draw or a fade. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of how to change it, let's understand what loft can do for your golf swing. Simply put, loft is one of the most critical parts of your driver, and it is one of the most critical parts of your club that can maximize your swing and your swing distance with the driver. A lot of golfers just get their driver and then they take it out to the range and they think, oh, I hit this a little bit too high, but it's all right, or I hit this a little bit too low. It's not all right, and if you can change it, you might as well do it. It's a very easy fix. In order to maximize distance with your driver, you need to have the most ideal loft and trajectory of your shot as possible. The best way to find out what that best trajectory is, that best loft is just by tinkering around with your club. Luckily, the process of adjusting the loft is not difficult. It won't take you a while, so you can just change it and then you can hit a few shots on the range. If you have access to a TrackMan or any flight monitor, you can do so. If you want your own flight monitor, as always, I'm partnered with FlightScope Mevo. You can use code SGT50 for $50 off and free shipping for your personal launch monitor. The link will be in the description for that offer. In this experimentation process, you should see a very distinguished difference in how far you're hitting the ball with a driver set at 9.5 degree loft and maybe how far you're hitting the ball with 12 degree loft. So let's start the demonstration on how to change the loft on your driver. Most drivers that were made recently have the option to change the loft, and here's how you can tell. Generally speaking, you'll have a screw where the shaft comes into the club head. You'll have a screw right here. And then, as I showed earlier, you'll have these settings right on the hosel of the club. So if your driver does not have either of those two things, then you will unfortunately not be able to change the loft. But if you do have those two things, you are in luck. Now, all you'll need to change the loft on the club is the club itself and one of these wrenches. These wrenches sometimes come with the club if you get it new. If you don't have one, you can pick them up at most golf shops. They're pretty inexpensive, and I can leave a link in the description so that you can get one online. First thing you're gonna wanna do is put the wrench right in here, and then you're just gonna go to the left, obviously. You're gonna feel a pop outward, and then that means that obviously it's loosening up. You're gonna wanna feel that pop when you reattach the club as well. Now, once it gets loose, you don't need to remove the club head entirely. If you want to, you can, but I don't have to for this particular club. For sake of demonstration, I am going to take the club head entirely off the club just because it'll be easier to see. And if that helps you, you can obviously do it as well, but you can leave it on and switch them if you'd like. Now that the club head is off, you can put that to the side and just focus on the top of the shaft here where these hosels are. Now again, I am showing you a demonstration on the Callaway XR16. This has two different hosels that I'll show up close, but the club that you're dealing with may only have one, some have three, some may have two just like this one. But it's important to understand what each one means. So as you can see, this top hosel has a few different options, and this is the loft of the club. We'll look at this top area right here, which has a few different settings on it. The first one being N, which stands for neutral. That means that you are keeping the 10.5 loft at 10.5. If we move one to the right, then we have -1, meaning you are turning the 10.5 into a 9.5. And then to the left, we have +2, which means that you are turning the 10.5 into a 12.5 degree loft. So obviously, when you are decreasing the loft, the ball will generally go lower, increasing loft higher. 12.5 will fly much higher than if you're at a 9.5. And this second area below the loft is the lie setting for the club. This also has a neutral setting, which means that the lie will remain the same as it came manufactured. And then there is a D setting, which stands for draw, meaning that when you set it on that, it will help for a right-handed golfer. It'll help the right-handed golfer produce a right to left flight. If you struggle with the slice, then putting it on that draw setting could help. So looking at it up close here, all you have to do is just pull up, slide around, and pull back down. And then you need to make sure they're all flush. You don't want to have any gaps in there. They should fit into one another just right. I personally have my driver set to a -1 loft. I take it down to a 9.5 as I have a higher trajectory that I like to have a little bit lower, more controllable, and I have it on the neutral lie setting. One thing important to note is that the shafts that have this adjustability setting will have an indicator, usually a line or something that you can see on screen right there. You need to line those two adjustments that you made flush with that line so that the club will go on and you'll get the right settings. From there, if you have everything lined up, there's also going to be a line on the club head that you're going to want to match up. Once you see everything is matched up, you're going to want to push it back on. And it's going to be a little bit loose before you start screwing, and then screw it back on. One thing that some people who do this on their own overlook is how tight you want to screw it back on. And the answer is it's gotta be very, very tight. With most clubs, you'll hear some kind of sound, like a click in. Some clubs will make a popping sound when it's back in place. Others, you can just feel the resistance and push until you really can't push anymore. And that's it. That's all you have to do to change the loft on your driver. Once again, it is a simple process, which means it's good for when you're tinkering. The first time you change it, it might not be ideal. I know that I've tried a couple of different variations with this club until I finally found the -1 neutral. And that's where I've had it for a couple months now and I really like it. But if you find something and you like it for a little bit, you want to change it, it's a very easy fix. So that is the process behind changing your loft, and I hope you learned a little bit about why you should change it and what it does for you. If you have any further questions for me, you can always leave them in the comment section below. I also respond to any messages on the Scratch Golf Tips social media platforms, and you can email me personally at scratchgolftips@mail.com. If you like the apparel in these videos, I wear John Morgan Sportswear. They are a partner of the Scratch Golf Tips brand. They will be linked in the description if you want to shop their apparel. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Play well and take care.